with Russia, a calamity for Auckland, hostile visits of a Russian ironclad, seizures of gold and hostages. Notwithstanding the telegraphic communications from England to Melbourne and the periodical intercourse by steamer between New Zealand and the Australian ports, the sudden declaration of war between Russia and England arising out of the Central Asian difficulty and the dishonesty of the Emperor of Persia was only made known to Auckland yesterday by one of the greatest calamities that overtook the colony. An event productive of grave disaster to New Zealand and destructive of the ancient prestige of England and her boasted supremacy of sovereign of the seas. That event was a sudden appearance of the hostile ironclad man-of-war, the Kaskowski, which took possession of the British warship lying in the waters of the Waitemata, seized our principal citizens as hostages, demanded our heavy ransom for the city, and emptied the coffers of the banks of all the gold and specials they contained. The consternation which for a time overwhelmed the people of Providence, who are made aware of this nefarious and barbarous transaction, which is utterly at variance with the laws and practice of modern warfare, may be understood by the reader, but cannot be described here. At the moment, we're under the complete domination of Russia, our own guns and our own men at war being pointed against the city, ready to be opened on us at any moment that the barbarous captors of her captors may select. Before describing the circumstances of this untoward event, we must compare the actions of the British cruisers during the Crimean War with this piratical proceedings which our northern enemy has adopted, and which has degraded the chivalry of modern war to the level of mercenary robbery in the Baltic and the Black Sea in 1854. No cannons of ours desolated unfortified towns, no predatory visits were made by a warship, no black mast was levied. Our very provisions were literally paid for when we handed any part of the coast of Russia which was without certification. The steamer Wonga Wonga left on Saturday afternoon with a large number of passengers for Australia on Saturday night. A little after midnight, 3 rockets were sent up from the vicinity of North Head, their sticks in a still fiery condition, falling in the neighbourhood of Devonport Hall. It is supposed that there was a treachery on the North Head, and that some spies had arranged as a signal to teach the Kaskowski that the proper time to enter the harbour was. However, strict surveillance kept on the harbour prevents the possibility of inquiry. That was a snippet out of the 17th of February 1873 edition of Daily Southern Cross. The article was dated Monday, 15th of May 1873. 3 months in the future, and a fake date as the 15th was a Thursday. David Lucky, the editor of the Daily Southern Cross, was concerned about the threat of potential Russian aggression on New Zealand due to Anglo-Russian conflicts in the 19th century as mentioned in the article. The Crimean War, to be specific. Not the one you might know of 2014, by the way. So he created this hoax invasion of Auckland by the Russian ironclad Kaskovsky, also known as Cast of Whiskey. Despite the tongue-in-cheek nature of the Russian ironclad's name, as well as the article being dated to 3 months in the future, there was a full-on scare by the population of North Shore and Auckland after this article came out, and the Daily Southern Cross would have to publish a follow-up article the following day. However, this was enough to get people talking about the lackluster defense that New Zealand had at the time, which mostly consisted of Britain's Australasian fleet, which was described as by the Waikato Times, quote-unquote, miserably small, and New Zealand's coastal defense, also described by the Waikato Times as quote-unquote, little more than a farce. Post-Crimean War of the 1950s, in which the Russians, the British, and the Ottomans were on opposing sides, New Zealand was punctuated by regular panic attacks about Russian expansion into the South Pacific. New Zealand's anxieties only ramped up as the British Imperial troops departed the island in 1870. This was further hurried along by the Russian war scare of 1885, where Russia expanded into Central Asia, occupying a border fort in Afghanistan. This was viewed as a threat to British India, and a war was feared. However, diplomacy prevailed, but this was well after New Zealand began its defense building program. In 1885, a series of forts were hurriedly built along the New Zealand coast, including 5 in Auckland. These were located in North Head, Bastion Point, Fort Takapuna, and Mount Victoria. North Head, also known as Mauna Uika, has the longest history of any of the coastal forts in New Zealand. It was serviced until 1957, when the coastal defense network was closed, and North Head had a strategic position on the Waitemata Harbour, looking over the entrance to the inner harbour and the Rangitoto Channel. It was also close to the Devonport Naval Base, which was the main base for the new Royal New Zealand Navy. At North Head, these large gun batteries were built, each with different roles and features. The North Battery defended the Rangitoto Channel, the South Battery defended the inner harbour and the summit, or the Quartley Battery was on the top of the hill. The guns were most up-to-date available at the time, and some of them were designed to retract fully underground for loading safely out of sight. These were brought over from England on tender and had to be installed piece by piece, as these were incredibly heavy and big for the ships of the time. These fortifications at North Head were not only about guns, but also about observation, communication, and camouflage. There were fire control posts, searchlights, emplacements, signal stations, and plotting rooms that coordinated the operation of the coastal defense system. There were also underground bunkers, magazines, supply rooms, and engine rooms that supplied the power to the gun turrets and searchlights. The coastal defense system at North Head was upgraded and expanded over the years, especially during the 2 World Wars. Despite having absolutely no strategic importance as a country, the perceived threat of invasion by the Japanese was high during the Second World War, as we feared the Japanese would sweep down in their invasion of the Pacifics. North Head became the headquarters of the 9th Heavy Regiment of the New Zealand Artillery and the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps. At the start of the war, there was insufficient accommodation, and searchlight crews often had to bunk down in the tunnels. However, by the end of the war, there were more than 30 barracks and administration buildings on North Head. Today, North Head is a public reservation managed by the Tupunga Maunga Authority on behalf of the Tamaki Collective, a group of 13 iwi and hapu with ancestral ties to the Auckland region. It is a popular destination for locals and tourists alike who enjoy the scenic walks, the historic buildings, and the spectacular views. If you wander around the reserve, you might also notice some of the hidden entrances to the tunnels and the underground spaces that are still here. Some are open to the public while others are closed for safety reasons, but they all tell a story of a time when Auckland was on high alert and North Head was its guardian. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you enjoy videos like this, please subscribe, as I plan to explore more of the world and share its stories with you. Take care and have a good one.